LinkedIn Echo Chamber. This is ML's Like Team Spirit. Today I've got Riaz with me. Riaz, welcome. How are you doing?
Hey, John. I'm good. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for joining and thank you for the support. So, Riaz, this is exciting for me as we've been connected for some time, but are just getting to know each other. What's even more exciting is I didn't have to do much work for this interview. When we connected and I said, "Hey, Riaz, you should talk to me," you said, "Yeah, I've got a great topic: bad data and dealing with it." So
Yeah.
I feel like this will be interesting to a lot of people who suffer from bad data and are overwhelmed with dealing with it. So look, thank you for joining. Before we get into it though, I would ask if you introduce yourself. So could you take 60 seconds, tell everyone your background and what you've been doing, please?
Yeah, sure. I've spent nigh on 20 years building MarTech, ad tech companies, from radio stations to email marketing platforms, video ad networks. And about 7 years ago, I came back to the B2B marketing world because I felt that the buyer in B2B was changing. The default back then was to be writing more and more content and throwing it out on socials and then running micro events. And it was just more and more of that. Acquisition costs were rising. And yet at the same time, the buyer was changing. It was shifting from to be somebody who spent more time researching online, away from the vendor website. And delaying the point at which they get in contact with those vendors. And so we built Radiate B2B primarily to address that change. And so today we are heavily focused on B2B advertising on the one side, and using cutting edge techniques to reach your audience. And on the other side, we collect as much signals as we possibly can that then allows us to basically reach your audience in a better way. So that's what we're working on today.
Good. Yes, congratulations on stellar career. So you're well qualified to be talking about this topic. So bad data and dealing with it. Let me tell you my knowledge of it. I feel like if I had a pound for every time I heard the word of like a source of truth, or, I don't know, filling gaps in our sparse data in our CRM, I'd be some kind of millionaire. So I'm familiar that it's a struggle for many. Sort of sparse and incomplete data on the consumers that they're dealing with is the problem that folk have, because they're tasked with delivering better experiences for their customers and so on and so forth. It's probably a good moment to say, I read something from Braze the other day saying, only 6% of marketers feel that they're really using their data to deliver any differentiation. So that shocked me, wow. As it was a number from 2025. So it means they've surveyed everyone in 2024. So in spite of all this world we live in the age of big data, sometimes we haven't really moved forward. So can you pick up the story here and explain bad data, dealing with it, and how can people move along a bit in spite of their difficulties?
In the common thread throughout my entire career has been data. We've always looked to use data to make things better in some way, shape, or form. If you go back, I remember running a huge campaign for a major footwear business who had collected tens of thousands of email addresses and names. But it was a brand awareness campaign and it sat in the brand awareness team. And so they didn't care about any of those names and email addresses. In fact, we were ordered to throw them away. Can you imagine the amount and value of that today? And we just threw it away. And so we've come a long way since that point in terms of using data, but we almost have too much data today. And I want to come at this from your CRM system. In B2B, your CRM system is usually the center of all your audience data. It contains all the contacts and companies that are that you should want to be able to reach. And of course, that's very rarely true. There's almost always a ton of noise in there. I did an exercise for us. We switched our ICP a bit, and overnight, a third of my list of people inside my CRM were no longer in my ICP. And so it made sense for us to invest the time and effort to just do something with those contacts. Now, I think the thing that it took me a while, years, to get my head around and cope with. I'm an engineer by training, who then went into marketing, and if data wasn't around, I doubt I would have ever got into it. But as a result, I'm a bit of a perfectionist in terms of wanting things to be just right type thing. And so for me, it's quite hard to go, actually, it's okay to have bad data inside your CRM, and to try and get it to be perfectly clean all the time is impossible. When we started Radio, I was intent on creating the perfectly clean CRM system that would never get dirty, and I quickly learned that I could either spend my life cleaning the CRM system, or I could actually go out and be closing deals. And it is that balance between the two that I think we'll dig into a bit today.
So let's get into the ICP part, because I get this expression is a bit B2B, but for the B2C side of it, I mean, my interpretation here is that you're saying, let me try and rephrase it. So in the B2C world, folks are sitting there with a database, feeling like it's inadequate somehow.
Yeah,
they're dealing with the data teams and IT teams, talking about how can that channel resupply the data that it used to supply to me, or we've lost something over here. But one key to this might be going back to this customer insight side of like what segments do we have? Where are our either highly loyal customers or some type of subgroup that's representative of driving most of your revenue or something like that? And you're kind of saying, well, if you looked at your data quality across that group, perhaps maybe your focus would be different. Saying, guess what? I don't know gender for some super lapse that disappeared 5 years ago. Well, so what? If you're better curating your data for some other group that is important to you, you might well look at the problem differently.
That's right. It's a case of prioritization. Now, certainly the people that are most loyal to you, there may well be a case for investing more time in those. And again, the question as to what level of investment still comes into play. Do you keep them always up to date? And again, it depends on your company. If you are a company that is actively engaging with those that particular group continuously, then you need to continuously keep it up to date. From the B2B side, with that group of people that were outside of our ICP, I didn't delete them. And that equates to, in a B2C side, with your lapsed customers. I'm from the camp of I don't think you should clean your list and get rid of people just because they haven't engaged in 12 months. I take the view that maybe, and again, there's always it depends in everything in marketing, right? There is a case where you would delete, but generally speaking, the questions you should be asking yourself is this just the case that that particular group of people have, may still be interested in the future? And most of the time you're going to be saying, yes, it's just there's something changed, and maybe you need to understand that change. In the B2B side, people shift from sales to marketing and marketing to sales all the time, especially at the junior and manager level. And so removing all those people from the group would be a waste of time, because actually a percentage of those are going to drift back into ICP later. And so whilst I may look at making sure the data of the people that I'm connected to or trying to connect to are up to date, and in our case, we prioritize based on some of the signals that we collect, like intent data or website behavior. That's going to make me care more about those companies. The ones that are outside my ICP today, sadly, in the world today, there's a lot of marketing leaders who have been made redundant and have gone freelance. We know there's much larger numbers of those people today. And so we periodically, once a year, once a quarter, again, depends on the audience, we'll then spend some time looking at that particular data set to clean up and see. And so it's about creating an understanding of your data, the different segments in your data, and then assigning okay, how important is this to me? How often do I really need to come back and clean this? And how often do I just let it go stale?
So I'm trying to extract an insight from you. So you've been very diplomatic, Riaz. Actually,
I'm always diplomatic.
When we prepared for this, you said, cleaning up sometimes is a waste of time. So
it is.
Yes.
It is absolutely. I mean, I suppose, I am being very. The harsh way of putting it is a large portion of your database is a waste of time to clean up. That is the simple fact for almost everybody, because your list grows and grows and grows. The way to draw the line for me is to look at two pieces of information. First and foremost is your ideal customer profile, your ICP, right? Which of the people inside your database, your CRM, doesn't match that criteria? That's the first line to draw, and your decision then comes as to whether you delete or you choose to update rarely, type stuff. The second group, and the second line that I draw is around signals. So, has somebody from that company come to the website recently? If so, that should trigger a refresh of that data around that company inside your CRM. Have they been showing intent outside of your website? Again, that should trigger intent. We also do things like predictive audiences for advertising. And again, what we're able to do is to identify the companies that are engaging with those advertising. That's another signal. We'll use that as a way to refresh the data. And so you keep bringing that line up and up and up. And based on, how much time you're willing to be able to invest in it, tells you where and how far up that list you go.
Yeah, so that was what was on my mind. I was thinking of what other lines do you draw if you're an individual suffering this, bad lists or data quality issues? What I heard you say, so I've outed you. Looking backwards too much is a waste of time.
Yes.
So I suppose folk doing this, and then I heard you say, I'll always be closing. So that shows me you're a true salesman. So I suppose one insight on the personal level is folks should be asking, am I spending too much time fixing things in the past? Like if you're doing that, but you're not working on making your campaigns better,
that's right.
It's a bit of a, wave the red flag at yourself. Yeah. If you're able to try and optimize what you have and make better what you have and show the business that you're moving the campaign activity forwards and simultaneously fix columns, clean lists, whatever, correct database, whatever all those things are, then you're probably all good. But if you're if you're going through weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of not really looking at your campaigns or your results, but having all these meetings about data pipelines, your orientation is probably a bit off.
Yeah, I mean, as a marketer, you always have to get comfortable with not having a complete picture. And because we have the data, we feel like, at least I felt like, we can do something about it. And the key thing to remember is actually, unless there is value or an action that you can take out of the work that you do from that data, it's a waste of time.
You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Not too much looking in the past. Try and make things better going forwards. Riaz, the B2B advertising industry is lucky to have you. Thanks for joining me today. The good news is your first interview's over. So thanks for your insights. Ladies and gents, this is LML's Like Team Spirit.